Culture War here on Wednesday, December 11th, as we speak to you here via your screens. The FIFA Soccer Congress, as it called, is formally announcing the next two World Cups, 2030 and 2034. We've pushed this off, have not wanted to mentally engage this subject on the show just yet, but seeing as how it's happening right now, we have to. You said it in the pre-show that maybe the era of good World Cups is over. Is that, you think, is that too cynical?
The era of good World Cups is over. The era of feel good World Cups maybe is over, and that's probably also a function that we were not as in tune with things as we should have been at times. I mean, Rob, you were telling a story about back in 2014 when we all had heard that the Brazilian government was going to clear out the favelas and try to pretty up the country at the expense of a lot of people and their homes. You had an inclination not to watch. You thought about boycotting, right? And what happened? Did you boycott?
I think like the first day.
Yeah, that's the problem, right? And I remember doing Soccer Morning and starting my radio career and talking a lot about the mental gymnastics that we as soccer fans have to do. Now,
the beautiful and the dirty side by side.
If you're a club over country person, you maybe can still kick this can down the road a little bit, although I don't know. Like at this point, things are getting kind of wild and woolly there too with Super League stuff and all that. But if you care about the World Cup, if you care about international competition, you kind of have to do business mentally with FIFA. It's impossible not to. And then FIFA does stuff that make you want to vomit, throw up, you want to boycott, right? I mean, I was thinking about this yesterday in light of this news about the 2030 World Cup and the 2034 World Cup, which Saudi Arabia is going to get. These things are going to happen by acclamation. There's not going to be a vote. FIFA's deciding, and there's not going to be any opposition. The only nation that has decided to actually have an issue with Saudi Arabia being handed the 2034 World Cup is Norway. And I think a letter was read out at the Congress about their dislike of certain elements of Saudi Arabia. But I was thinking about this. I remember just conceiving of the idea of how do you get away from all this? And it's the same thing that American soccer fans who don't like U.S. soccer have gone through. The only way is sort of a nuclear option, starting another federation, right? Starting up an opposing federation, like sort of like an anti-pope situation. Like, we got to start our own federation and then battle the current federation for control of things like the national team or youth registration or referee education or whatever it is you want a federation to do. It would have to be the same thing. Top nations, meaningful countries in the world of football, whether because of money or their legacy on the field, would have to pull out of FIFA. They would have to say, we don't want this anymore. And I'm talking about England. I'm talking about France. I'm talking about Germany. I'm talking about Brazil. I'm talking about Italy, United States, because of money mainly. Those countries would have to get together and collude to break away from FIFA. And almost certainly what would happen initially is that FIFA would say, all right, well, you're out of the World Cup because you broke away. Is any one of those countries comfortable being kicked out of the World Cup? No. Because everybody benefits. The money that is there. I mean, this is why only Norway has said anything about Saudi Arabia being gifted, being handed through Gianni Infantino and the absolute just graft that is happening out in the open, right? This is the difference between the Sepp Blatter era and the Gianni Infantino era. Sepp Blatter was a useful idiot, and the people around him were passing paper bags of money back and forth. And I think I've already said this on the show, but I'm going to say it again. Gianni Infantino, no, none of that. We're just going to do it, and you can't stop us. We are going to make it so Saudi Arabia can spend billions of dollars. We will benefit as FIFA. It will go straight into our pockets. And what is anybody going to say? We don't want this. We're going to break away from FIFA? No, they hold all the cards on this, and that's why we're here.
Yeah, it's mental gymnastics is such a good way to put it. Is, as soccer enthusiasts and lovers, the World Cup is the pinnacle, and it's what we look forward to. It only comes around every 4 years, and you don't want to be part of the problem. Like, I want to watch the pinnacle of the thing that I enjoy the most.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
and to like have to feel bad about it because it's
Sucks.
besmirched
Sucks.
by the hosts and the people organizing it. And there's so many different morally reprehensible things like ignoring nature, ignoring human rights, ignoring all
Yeah.
the problems that huge populations from within the sport itself have problems with. I mean, and then also part of it is rearranging the standard stuff, like because the Saudi Arabia thing, they'll have to play it in the winter, and so there'll be
Probably.
another round
Yeah.
of upheaval of the club. So not only does it impact the international stage, but it also besmirches the
Okay.
club scene.
Shout out to Nate, always here. The Champions
Yeah.
League is the pinnacle, not the World Cup. That is true in terms of the quality of the play. There's no doubt that the Champions League, at the later rounds especially, is the height
Yeah.
of soccer as it's played on the field. But of course, the World Cup is much more about the quality, much more than just the quality of play, right? It's an opportunity, especially for us as Americans who didn't really have anything else, right? Our league was growing and starting, and is still very much second, third tier. To have a chance to prove ourselves as a nation, right? That's what we desperately want as American soccer fans, to be validated by the rest of the world. And if we can do that, the World Cup is the opportunity to do that, right? It's a place we can go and maybe show that we can play this game, and people will notice. Now, I want to kind of get us to understanding what's going on today, Robert, a little bit. So 2030, a World Cup that's going to be awarded today. Generally speaking, I mean, sort of in the thrust of this is Morocco, Spain, and Portugal are going to share this World Cup. This is a 3-country World Cup. These are relatively small countries. I think Spain could probably pull off. I don't know. It's 48 teams. Maybe Spain can't even pull that off. But they're going to join up. Now, the other part of this World Cup, though, is because it is the 100th anniversary of the first World Cup in Uruguay, they're going to play games, one game each, in Argentina and Uruguay. One game each. And because of rules that FIFA put in place a long time ago,
Paraguay,
that everybody,
too.
Paraguay, three countries,
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
Uruguay,
Okay,
Paraguay, Argentina. Yeah.
what matters though for what I'm about to say? I want to make sure I get that right. You're correct. But what matters here in terms of the Saudi Arabia bid is that because games are happening in South America can therefore not bid. No South American country or combination of countries can bid on the 2034 World Cup because FIFA has in place you cannot have consecutive World Cups in the same confederation. In fact, you can't host either of the next 2 World Cups if you have a World Cup in that confederation. So South America cannot have a World Cup in 2034 or 2038 because of a tiny number of games
3 games
happening in South America. All right? So then what that means is I think there are only 2 confederations that are eligible to host in 2034 or to bid. Oceania, which, let's be honest, there's no country that has the facilities to host a World Cup in Oceania, and Asia, right? And Asia's got Australia, who was interested, and Saudi Arabia, who was still in this massive sports washing phase and was ready to lay down money like the Qataris to have their World Cup. Australia pulled out. And they pulled out basically because they knew there was no shot at this. And because FIFA accelerated the process of awarding the 2034 World Cup, remember, we're 10 years away from this World Cup. 10 years away from this thing. Because they accelerated the process, Australia didn't have time to get the contracts out. They didn't have time to get the negotiations started with stadiums for sports other than soccer because you're going to need the Melbourne stadiums for the big games and things like that. They weren't able to do that. So they were like, nope, we're out. Leaving only Saudi Arabia. I mean, how convenient is it that everybody got out of the way so Johnny could get his way and Saudi Arabia could get this World Cup? And we talked about this last week. They dropped the report on the bid preparedness of Saudi Arabia.
This is the dirtiest bit.
They gave this bid, and they dropped this in the middle of the night, Thanksgiving week, 2 weeks ago, I guess, Thanksgiving weekend. Dropped it in the middle of the night. They gave Saudi Arabia the highest score they have ever given any potential host nation. And they don't have the stadiums. This is very much like Qatar. They have to build everything. Now we know they have the money to build everything, but how are they going to build everything, Rob? Who are they going to use to build everything?
They will
Saudi
be
Arabia?
using the most well-paid, highest qualified people that are not being subjugated whatsoever.
The only fun thing about this, and I feel bad even making this joke. I'll be honest. I'm a person who thinks comedy has a place in nearly every situation. All right, I feel bad making this joke, but the only joy I get out of this is that here is the proposed King Salman Stadium in Riyadh. Okay, this is supposed to be the host of maybe the opening ceremony. First of all, what the hell is this thing? What is it? What's happening there? When you see this, Rob, tell me you don't also see this.
Before you did the big reveal, I was going to say that stadium does kind of make me hungry, and now, boom, one of my favorite Taco Bell items.
There it is. Now, it's green. If you had a green Crunchwrap Supreme, you probably wouldn't eat it on the outside. If it was green on the outside, you probably, unless you, okay, maybe it's going to be drenched in some guacamole. It could be drenched in guacamole. Sure, why not?
Man, oh man, it's never too early to order Mexican. All you had to do was put up that picture. I'm salivating over here, but you're right. It's quite the design.
Now, I had a comment on Blue Sky. Follow me on Blue Sky, Davis Jason, over there. I had a comment on Blue Sky say, "Isn't this supposed to be a desert? Isn't Riyadh, Saudi Arabia? Isn't that a desert? How is it so green? That's okay. I mean."
And yeah, and then I think the top of that is that that is kind of some cool outside the box thinking. If it looks like they have like some grass or some shrubberies growing out on the outside to almost have like a faux underground sort of appearance.
Yeah.
But yeah, where is this water and green life coming from?
People, here's any other suggestions for what this looks like. Nate says it looks like a rebel base from Star Wars, which
I like that.
Yeah, kind of does. Maybe on Endor or something. I don't know. I don't know enough Star Wars history.
You nailed it. Right. Don't be undercover. You were a Star Wars nerd. You nailed it.
I am not. I like Star Wars in like the most casual way possible. Like the original movies. Watch some of the shows. But people made fun of Atlanta's Mercedes-Benz Stadium with that aperture because it looked like a certain thing. Does this not look like that certain thing also? Does this not also... In Spanish, my wife would say it looks like a fondillo. A fondillo is
a fondillo if you've been sitting in the moss.
Yeah. If you are a naturist and you were sitting around on some moss-covered logs, your fondillo might look like this. At the end of the day, that's what that is. Man, it's just again, I feel bad even laughing about that. I feel bad.
This is a little bit of a tangent, but walking back, I really liked how you spelled it out because I didn't really think about this in this perspective, like how the 2030 being across 3 continents kind of sets it up for Saudi Arabia to be the one in the spotlight. It reminds me, this is a little bit of a jump, but the Sopranos episode where Tony and Mrs. Soprano are going through some tough stuff and she's talking to divorce lawyers. And Tony Soprano goes around to every reputable divorce lawyer in town so that they could not engage with Mrs. Soprano because it would be a conflict of interest. Almost just like occupying everybody else so that there's only one remaining.
Yeah, I think that also happened in Succession. I think I remember Jeremy Strong's character having that same issue or something like that. Yeah, this is manipulation of the process at a level so brazen. It's again, you can't even get to this place of it's just a couple of bad actors. Like the corruption is
global.
There, right? The corruption is there in the case of the Sepp Blatter era, right? The corruption is there. We know people are taking money from the game, putting it in their own pockets. Again, Jack Warner, Chuck Blazer, they were notorious for it, but it wasn't just them. It was happening in Africa. It was happening in South America. Remember, we are 9 years removed and a little bit more from that moment when Sepp Blatter resigned as FIFA president because of the investigations, because of the Justice Department investigations into FIFA. I went back and looked. I was doing Soccer Morning at the time. I had Grant Wall on the show to talk about this 9 years ago. First of all, I'm much better looking now than I was back then, so just keep that in mind if you go and look at the video. I don't know, just like looking at myself going, whoa.
Your lighting's better.
Whoa. Maybe that was a thing. I don't know. But that's how long this has been that we've been talking about these things. And again, Gianni Infantino is not better. He is worse because he does not care about hiding any of this. It is right there. It is sort of faux legal. It is using the system and manipulating it and molding it to your ends because King Salman wants to give you, or King whoever wants to give you $1 billion.
Yeah, in context, in the Sepp Blatter era, Was it Jack Warner or the American? I just lost his name. The American representative,
Chuck Blazer.
Chuck
Yeah.
Blazer. He was buying penthouse apartments for his cats.
Yes.
Whereas this new iteration is using global manipulation and faux slavery. So there has been a bit of a
is that
change.
one of those cats that we're hearing right now? Is
Chuck
that
Blazer's cat?
Chuck
in the
Blazer's
house?
cat is in your house? I didn't know you adopted Chuck Blazer's cats, Rob.
No,
Very
we,
nice
we,
of you.
we did get one off the street, and like any sort of malady that you could get from a cat, you get off the street. We've inherited.
Oh,
and,
lovely.
It's not fixed yet, so I think that's the call to a gentleman caller is actually what you're hearing in the back.
I see. Lovely, lovely stuff. That
It's getting-
fits this theme.
Yeah, and my old Chihuahua female, she doesn't know what's going on. It's getting weird over here.
All right. Well, let's keep it weird and move on to something very MLS.
Yes, very MLS. Let's roll on. Click subscribe if you